Okay, so I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So we're going to be talking about this briefly. You already have this notes. You already have it in PDF. So I'll talk briefly about it. And this information we are going to consume today or this morning, plus all those ones we have had from when we used to be together on campus, plus those ones I've given you when you went home, all of them put together is the basis of what we'll be trying to do. That is modeling a database. So we'll pick a topic and we'll try to see how we do that in Access. So you have to take all of them seriously. Now let's talk about data types in Access. And unlike what we normally do when we are doing flat file database management, data type doesn't come in. It doesn't matter. Data types don't matter. You can just type any data, whether it is text, whether it is number, in your word table. But in Access, we have to be following some rules. You see, the main thing we are trying to do is that we want the database to be designed in such a way that anything that we want to get in terms of data management, we'll be able to do it flexibly. That means that we cannot do it the same way as we do with a traditional one that is very rigid to manage. So some rules are very important here. We have already talked about some of the rules. You remember we talked about normalization, and basically we talked about the first three levels of normalization, also called normal form. So we talked about first normal form, second normal form, and third normal form. You already have the notes. I've also done some video explanations of the concepts that I earlier gave you. So the two of them can be used to support your understanding. So that is one of the rules, normalization. Today we're going to talk about data types. You can't just store things anyhow. You have to store things in some specific ways. So for example, if I have a table to record student data, so I have student's name, so we have maybe first name of the student, surname of the student, I have date of birth of the student, and maybe some other information. The first column, which is first name of the student, the information you put there, it's in a certain way that you have to define how you store it in terms of the data type. So in Access, let me try to put on my Access so that we can practically see some of the things I'm trying to talk about. So Access. If you also have your computer before you, you can do same, and then you can follow along. Okay, so in Access, when I come to, let me move to design view, you will see your ribbon. Yes, so you will see that when you view your table in design view, you have this look. You have this look where you have field name, data type, description, and then description is optional. I'm very much interested in the data type, so we are going to deal with this column. At least for now, you can see one type of data type, auto number. I'll explain it later. But let's click. When you click here, you'll see a drop down. So you see drop down of all the data types in Access. First one is short text. We have long text, we have number, we have date, time, we have currency, and then we have this auto number that you saw earlier. We have yes or no data type. We have OLE, object linking and embedding. We have hyperlink, we have attachment, we have calculated, we have lookup wizard. Frankly speaking, not all of these are data types. Some of them is a way access gives you some flexibility to manipulate the system. So the actual data types are text, which we have two forms of it, short text, long text. We have number, we have date, time, we have currency. And auto number is the same as number. It's just because Access takes control of generating the number. This data type, you have control of assigning the numbers. This one is where you ask Access to automatically generate those numbers for you. So the only difference you see between number and auto number is the word auto. Auto means that it automatically generates the numbers. And when we start a practical session, you will see how it works. Yes and no is a data type. OLE object is not really a data type. It's a mechanism that you can use to attach objects like maybe a file, a video, image to the database. Hyperlink is also something like that. Attachment the same way. Attachment works in much the same way as OLE objects. Calculated is actually not a data type. Calculated is how you can combine maybe two fields or two columns to yield another column. For example, if you have a table which stores students' fees information or data, so you have these fields. Fee payable, that's the amount everybody is supposed to pay. And then you also have a field or column which records fee paid. That's all you need. Alright, then you can use this calculator to always calculate amount outstanding, which is fee payable minus fee paid. You can use this calculated data type, let's call it so, to compute maybe 5% of fees that is supposed to probably go to SRC or whatever it is. So you can use this to do that. So basically these are the data types. And I've given you nice descriptions of these data types in the text I gave you. If we quickly go through the table. As for the text is for you, so you can read them. And I'm just trying to explain so that when you read over them again, you will understand. So you will see that we have this text, short text. What is the basis, or what will make you feel like, okay, this particular column, let me assign it short text? We have tried to give a brief description to guide you. In fact, most part of what should guide you in deciding which data type to assign to a column or a field is common sense. For example, first name. We all know that first name, like me, my first name, Josh, is textual in nature. So you have to assign it the text data type. But whether it should be long text or short text is about the size of the text, the number of characters. Josh, for example, is just about 4 characters. Even if your name is the longest in the world, it cannot go above 255 characters. So Access by default assigns this space for this data type. If you assign a column the short data type, it allocates this number of characters to it. So Access assumes that probably you may not be able to consume 255 characters. Nobody's name can be as long as 255 characters. It also means that if your name is as short as what I said, Josh, it means that you have to reduce this, because Access will automatically allocate this whole space. So if the space will not be used, it has no point in maintaining the space, because it will slow down your database. So you can trim this space. For example, I will normally go for 30 because I envisage that nobody's first name can be more than 30 characters. If you think it can be more than 30, you can assign 50. so that you trim the database down. But Access has a default space for you, 255 characters. How about if, let's say, in a table, there is a need for you to add a column which is comments, which is called comments, so that you add comments about something you are doing. Comments can be very wordy sometimes. It can contain more characters. You have to be typing like a paragraph or even more as a comment. In such a case, you know that the 255 characters may not be enough. So assigning short text may not be appropriate. So the long text is there for that particular job. If the data you will be storing goes above 255 characters, then you have to appropriately use the long text data type. Long text gives you the opportunity to type 63,000, almost 64,000. You can see the number there, almost 64,000 characters. Okay, so it also means that you cannot type a book there. Yeah, so you have the limitation of the characters there, about 64,000 characters. That will do for something like a paragraph or a page, or maybe a few pages. And I don't think in any database design a field you may want to type like 3 pages or more. Yeah, so that's for the long text. Number. If you read the description, numeric data. Okay, let me say something also about the text. We can put a number. We can have a number. Or we can have a field that records some digits, but we'll still assign text. Please give me a few minutes. Let me take this call. I beg. Adama. Honorable Mpacho, good morning. Mpacho, me hoye now, sir. Mpacho, me wo class and play grand wa frame into me pon ya me ba around. Mpacho bibia e come again. Ah, okay. Yeah, this is one. That's much. Inti sano kama me idea so we be a boni base and I'm a publishing video. But you any find out me this one but sorry. So I was explaining there is something small I need to say about the text data type. We can have a column or a field which records some digits. For example, phone. A column that records your phone number. Your phone number is all digits. My number is 0506028495. They are all digits. But we still store the phone number as text. And the reason is whether it is number or it is a text or it's a combination of numbers and text, which we do not intend to perform calculations on, we store them as text. We don't want to do my phone number just as I read times 2. It doesn't yield any meaningful data, and we don't even do that. We don't also do my phone number divided by another person's phone number. For what? Something like zip codes. I think almost all of them are digits. You do not want to do this zip code plus that zip code, or that zip code divided by 2 or 3. You don't do that. So all those numbers that naturally are not involved in calculations are still stored as text. But the number data type is for storing, it's assigned to columns whose values are naturally involved in calculations. For example, I told you of, let's say, a table that we have to record student fees. So we have a column that is fee payable, another column that is fee paid, for example. We naturally do computations on these numbers, the fee payable. We may want to know the sum of the fee that we have all students need to pay, so that we get an idea of the money that is expected to come to us. Sum is calculation, addition of all of them. We may want to do fee paid minus fee payable. So we have the amount outstanding. That is calculation. We may want to do 5% of fee payable. Maybe it's a deduction to go to SRC or something like that. So any column that records values of this nature, that column ideally should be assigned the number data type. And you have the details here. This is the size that Access allocates to such numbers. Then we have date time. Date time is for storing dates. So if, for example, there's a column or there's a field that is the date of birth, you do not need to leave it just like that. We are not working like in the old days where you put a column date of birth and then you don't specify how it should be stored. You just type it in. In Access, you have to specify that this field is this data type. And the data type should be right because we will do a lot of computations on our database to get whatever information we want to get it in a good time in the right format. So if you don't do well with the assignment of the data types, if you do it wrongly, for example, if you assign text data type to a column that records date, you cannot do computations on that column. Maybe you want to calculate a person's when a person is due for leave and so on and so forth, and it's about dates. So if you have stored it as date time data type, you can do all of these calculations and get things right. So that is about date time data type. Currency data type is not too different from number. This is also number. It's also number data type. So currency data type is assigned to number fields, but numbers that are currency. They are money in nature. That's the only difference. By default, if you assign currency data type to a column, all values will be formatted with the dollar symbol. It doesn't mean you are in the US or you deal in dollars. That is the default symbol for currency. And it shouldn't be surprising to you because these all Access and most of these technologies are coming from the United States. So why should they use your CD symbol? Why shouldn't they use their CD symbol? If you want to do something that comes automatically with your CD symbol, then you have to also be producing software. And I know you can do it. Yeah, so that is the currency data type. The auto number is number data type. But this is where you assign this data type if you want Access to automatically generate the numbers for you. And then we will see when we start practical session, we will see when it becomes ideal to assign auto number. We normally do it for IDs. Yes. IDs that you do not intend to use. The database uses it for its work. So you can make Access automatically generate those IDs. I mean primary key IDs. Yeah. Yes, no is self-explanatory. Maybe you have a field that the values you put there is either on or off, yes or no, true or false. Those dichotomous variables, yes. You just assign that data type. Okay. So there's a little bit of information here that I put here for you to be cautious about. If you are dealing with, for example, the older versions of Access, like 2010 and earlier, you will see that there's a slight change from those earlier versions when you compare it to the newer version starting from 2013. In 2010 and earlier, you will see that the data type, the text data types, they were just text. There was no long text and short text. It was just text, which is for the job that short text will do. And then there was another data type which was called memo for long text. So that's the difference. In case you're using those older versions, that's the only difference that you need to be aware of. Okay, so this table also explains the other things I said. They have been put as part of the data types, but they are really not data types. They just help you make your life easier for you. Like attachment. Attachment is for attaching something. You can attach, let's say in the fee table, for example, when you record a student's receipt number, amount payable, amount paid, you may want to scan and attach the receipt as part of the database. So you can do that. So you create a column, and then you can call the column attachment, whatever name that makes sense. Then you assign that column this data type, attachment data type. So it will be made ready. That column will be made ready for attachment of whatever sort it is. OLE objects also works in similar ways like the attachment. Hyperlink, if you want to maybe create, the hyperlink can be created. It may not need to be created as a column. Even in the, for example, the long text, you can highlight some text and make it a hyperlink. Maybe it's a link to some website that when you click on, or it's a link to another table. For example, in the student table, you can maybe when you link the two tables, we have the student table, we have the fee table. These tables will have to communicate with themselves, because we have to know which student is paying which fees, or in a fee table, which fee is for which student. So if we put let's say the foreign key, and I'll explain all of these things when we start practical sessions. So in the meantime, if you have a problem about what foreign key, I know nobody has a problem about what a foreign key is. If you put a foreign key in the fee table, for example, so that after typing the fee, you assign in the foreign key column, or you just link that record you have just done to the student. So you just type the student ID in the student, in the fee table. That becomes a foreign key. I will explain when we start the practical session. You can make that ID, that foreign key ID, a hyperlink, so that when you click on it, it can link you automatically back to the table and the student whose fee is like that. You can do that. Yeah, that's for hyperlink. It can be used for many other purposes. Lookup wizard. Lookup wizard, like if you look at the name, you know that it's not even a data type. It's a wizard. It helps you try to create lookups, and we'll see what a lookup is. I cannot explain it in any better way without practically demonstrating how it works. So I want to reserve it and then explain it practically when we start a practical session. Today, the intention was to finish this short video on data types and start a practical session. So I think maybe we'll introduce it. If you don't even get there, we'll definitely get there. Calculated, I've already explained the calculated data type. Not really a data type. Calculated is like you can combine fields or columns in an already existing table. You can combine columns. You can even combine column from more than one table to generate another column. Yeah. So you use that to do it. We'll see it in a practical session. So basically, this is all I want you to know about data types. Read this information. You can also search on the web or other sources to augment your knowledge about them. Any questions on what we have just talked about on access data types? Any questions? Hello? Hello?
Hi.
Please, please let's try to talk one after the other. Otherwise, we'll get a lot of interference, which will not be good for us. So if you are not talking, please mute your mic. I beg. If you want to talk, mention your name. I'll give you. Just mention your name. Let me give you access to talk. Just mention your name.
It is you that assigned it.
Hello? Hello? If you want to talk, let me hear your name, and then I give you the nod to talk. I was asking whether you heard the presentation. Did you hear what I presented?
Sir, please.
Hello?
Yes, please.
What's your name, please?
Hello, sir.
Yes, I'm listening. Your name?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you have any
Okay,
questions?
sir, please, you are fine. Currently, that type of field.
Francis, the question.
Someone just talked, but I could hardly hear the person.
Sir, please, just I'm asking that if you assign current data type, can you perform computation calculation?
Let's meet it. Let's go. Yeah. Can you come around? Okay, and then I will come there. I have some online class right now. Let me wrap up. Okay. Sorry, I had to listen to a call. I beg you. Please repeat your question. Sorry. Someone just asked a question on the data type presentation. Can you repeat your question, please? Okay, if there are no questions, then I wanted a person who asked the question to repeat the question, but he's not talking.
Hello, sir.
Yes, I'm listening.
I asked that if you assign current data type to your field, can you perform computations?
Exactly. All the computer, in accounting, when you assign currency data type, it's like you are doing accounting. It's just unfortunate that we don't have accounting data type. If you look at Excel, for example, they have accounting and they have currency. Yeah. So the currency data type is trying to say that, okay, that column is for money. We do calculations with money. I may want to know 5% of my salary. Maybe I want to do some savings, which is 5% of my salary, for example. I may want to do my salary minus a certain amount. I may want to do my salary divided by something. So we do all the natural calculations on money. So we do calculations on currency. And therefore, when you assign a currency data type, you can do all the calculations that are necessary to do. Thank you very much for your question. I hope I have answered you correctly.
Yes, please.
Okay. Any other question? Please, your name. When you check the floor, you mention your Rosemond. Did you say Rosemond?
Francisca.
Francisca, we are listening to you. Ask your question.
Yes. Please, with the dollar sign, what if maybe you have to create a database and then the currency is in Ghana cedis? How do you have to still change it to the dollar sign, or how will you do it?
If you don't have control, it's a default symbol for the currency data type. So it will be there.
Okay.
Yeah, it will be there, but it doesn't mean you are dealing in dollars. What you can do is that, let's say you want to do some reporting, so you can export the data to Excel, and in Excel you can manipulate to bring your Ghana cedi.
Okay, thank you,
In
sir.
fact, Access works hand in hand with Excel. Most of the things after we have used the database to gather the data, uh, if not most, some of the analysis are further done in Excel. So you can export from Access to Excel and do further analysis. In that case, you can change the default currency symbol dollar to Ghana cedi symbol. Excel has all the currency symbols, so you can look for your Ghana cedi. I think the international codification for our new Ghana cedi is GHS. So you can see it's a data type. Yeah, so you can assign it and it will still be a number which you can perform your calculations on.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yes, please.
Your name, please.
Sir, I'm called Elizabeth.
Yeah, Lizzie, let's hear you.
Okay, so sir, the table you gave us for the hyperlink, we had a size of 8,192. But you further explained each part of the hyperlink data type can contain up to 2,048. And now I wasn't getting it. Sir,
Yes.
please, do you get my question?
I get your question. When we start the practical session, I will highlight that part for you. So when we get there, please remind me, I beg you.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Thank
you too. Any other question? Okay, so let's try to do something practical with Access. Now we have had all the foundational knowledge to be able to apply to do a good database in Access. You remember in class before COVID came, we gave ourselves some scenario. Who remembers it? Who remembers the scenario? And then I made a certain lady. In fact, my first day I met you as a class teacher. I made a certain lady come to board to do some sketch of her design. Who is the lady? What's the name? I've forgotten of the name. The lady knows herself. If you are online, please let me hear your voice.
Sir, please, it's me.
Please, the name. I've forgotten of the name.
Wendy.
Wendy. Okay. So, Wendy, you should be the best person to remember if the rest don't, because you came to do the sketch on the board. What was the scenario about?
Sir, please, it was a relational database for a school system.
Good. So, we want to use a school system, and the main idea is that we are all in school. In fact, we've been in school from our infancy, so we know we have a good amount of understanding of how a school system operates. We are also in the university. We are in level 200 now, right? So we have a good sense of how the university system works. So when we use it as an example, we can all follow along. I don't want to use something which is the concept is not too familiar, because I don't want anybody to chew baba. Because this one you can't chew. If you try to chew it, you will fail the exam. Okay, so the school system. The school system. Can you see my board? Can you see what I've written?
No.
Yes, sir.
No, sir.
Who
Yes,
can
sir.
see? Who is not seeing? Who said no, sir? Let me hear your name. If you can't see what I've written, let me hear your name. Can you see? Because I'm not hearing anybody's name, so it means anybody is seeing it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, so The school system. We even tried to understand, and I gave you an assignment on it. I remember. No, the assignment was like your own perceived system, but we did a few things about the school system, and we tried to break the school system into the logical entities, the entities that may be involved. We all did it together, so I can mention anybody's name to contribute. Wendy Shea. Wendy. Hello, Wendy.
Sir.
Give me one entity. This is so we are trying to do the university system. Oh, it can be any school. Okay, so give me one entity. We are trying to break the system down into entities. Give me one entity. Wendy, I'm listening.
Sir, please, students.
Okay, thank you, Wendy. So one student. You can say students, but I prefer to put it in singular. Which other person? Who wants to talk? Two. Department.
Yes, sir.
Please, your name.
Sir, please, I'm Isaac.
Isaac. Okay, Ike. Three. If you want to talk, just mention your name first, so that if I have like two people mentioning their names, I can choose which person to respond. Otherwise, multiple people will be talking at the same time. So if you want to talk, let me hear your name. Just mention your name like I've always been saying. Nobody wants to talk.
Sir,
What's your name?
Francis.
Francis. Fresho.
Francis.
Francis. Okay, Francis, let me hear
Lecturers.
you. Okay, so lecturers. Yes, your name.
Reina.
Sir, Francis.
Francis, yes, I've seen you. There's a new person who wants to talk. I want to hear.
Yes, sir.
What's your name? The new person who wants to talk. Yes, I've written yours. It's there. Are you seeing the screen? This is yours, lecturers. Who else wants to talk? Let me hear your name. And please, when you finish talking, you mute your mic. Otherwise, you give us unnecessary feedback.
Hello.
Yes, your name.
Reina.
Nina.
Yes, Hall.
Okay, Hall. So let's say Nina. Let's put it maybe residence. Okay. Okay, thank you, Nina. Who else wants to talk? If you have finished talking, please mute your mic, I beg. Who else wants to talk? Nina just said residence. Residence for hall, Amamuma, hostels, everything. So we are putting everything together, residence. If you want to talk, mention your name first. Who has his mic on? Someone is giving us feedback.
Sorry, Christian.
Princess.
Princess, okay, Princess, let's hear you.
Hello, sir.
Yes, Princess, let's hear you.
Hello.
Princess, I can hear you.
Program.
Okay, program. Program. Okay, program. Thank you, Princess. I've written program. What again? Oh, that's all. What again? But let me ask: if you were the school owner, wouldn't you be taking your money? Or is a philanthropist kind of thing?
Free
I
education.
was about to say that.
And you?
NGO, visa free education. Okay, I get you. So let me put fee here. I didn't know that you guys have so much money to do free education. I will take my fee. So I have the fee there, fee table. We need to record the fees. Okay, so wouldn't you also want to know the information? Now you have to take yourself as the school owner who needs information, and for that matter needs to record all the necessary data that will generate the necessary information as the basis of decision making to make your school the best. That's how you have to take yourself. You get it? That's how you have to take yourself. So I am saying that you have to be able to think through it in that sense, and then you put up all the necessary entities so that you don't leave some out. So fee is there. You can think of some other things, but I think it's okay for now. Let's try to design the tables in Access and see how it will be like as we go along. If some other entities come along, we'll talk about them. For now, I think I have one in mind. I will be interested in also knowing about the information of or data on parents, guardians. Yes, so that in case of anything you can call. It's not only the student you need to know their parents. You need to know who. What? Please, if you finish. Another one, okay, let me have it.
Non-teaching staff.
Okay, non-teaching staff.
Or
what? Okay, so
that's all. Non-teaching staff.
Non-teaching staff. Good. Okay, so that's okay. Let's try to see. When we start to model, we will now be faced with the issue of whether we have to merge some of them or whether we have to even think of other entities as well. Okay, so now we have our Access open. Let me close and reopen, right? So that hello, any question? Is there a question? Okay, let me go ahead. Let me close, reopen Access. I want to take the opportunity to explain.
Hey.
Yes, madam.
What about lecture theater?
So that is venue. So venue. So let me add it to it. Nine. So lecture venue. When we say venue, okay, let me make it specific. Lecture venue, because there could be other venues for other purposes. So we mean lecture venues. We also have you forgot about courses, right? You only said programs, but how about the courses? So 10.
Yeah.
Or you go to school because you don't like to learn, so you forgot about the courses completely. Okay, so when we open Access for the first time, this is the interface. If Microsoft calls this welcome interface or welcome screen, whatever it is, you will see this. Okay, this search bar. gives you the opportunity to search for online templates. This project we are trying to model into a database. You can have a template on it. So if I search, and in fact the template, we can have a local template. The program already comes with. I'm not sure whether they still do it. The previous versions, Microsoft will add a few local templates so that even if you are without internet, you can have some templates to work with. But I think the idea is changing now. They are trying to move everything online to make the program maybe a little trimmed, or so that they can make space for other things that are more important. So here, if you have internet, you can type here something about the template. So if I type, let's say, school, for example, let me try to see if I can get some template on it, school. And then I can type enter. Then it will go searching on Microsoft's servers to try and see. Okay, so we have one here which they have called faculty. And of course, when you the results are returned, you can see the categories. You have education, 101, templates, back to school, 34. They have a lot of them. So maybe let me choose education. Yeah, maybe it wanted me to have typed education, and I did school. Okay, so I don't know why. So, but we have only this returning for education. So let me click on it. Then you will see this, right? And then you can create. Let me create it later. I'll delete it. I don't really need it. I'm just trying to make you understand that there are templates, most of them online, which you can take advantage of. Sometimes some simple database you may want to do may already be existing online, so you can download and just feed the database with your data. You may not need to create it from scratch, but in most cases you may have to create it from scratch, or at least modify the one you have downloaded. So you need to have the design techniques. Okay, so when you look at this, the downloaded one, you will see that this is how it works. Okay, this is what you see. So you have, it's for maybe faculty list. It's as simple as that. It's a simple database on your faculty list. So you can create a simple database for your friends. So all your friends that you have had in the university, even from SHS. So the first name, surname, where the person can be found, maybe address, the person's contacts, details. So you can put that in some simplified database, about 2-3 tables, maximum 4, and then it's on your computer. Any friend you get, because you can easily lose friends, especially when you finish school. So you can create a database and be adding them. Then you go to your database, oh, this guy, let me call him. But it will surprise you that maybe some years after finishing school, most of you become big girls and big boys. And then it will surprise you that come, oh, I'm here. Then we help ourselves in that manner. So it's good to build networks, and that is friendship. And what you are learning right here in school, access database design, you can employ that technique to do a simple database that tracks all your contacts, your friends. Yeah. So this is it. So you type faculty number, and then you see this is you type the faculty number here, the first name, the last name, the email, business phone, department, faculty. So this is how they designed it. It's online template. When you click here, you can see all the tables and the other things involved. And I think for most of these online things, access, the designers, Microsoft tries to hide. Okay, so it's just one table, and then one query, and then we have a lot of, these are reports, and then we have a form. So you can even open this form, faculty details. So this is how they have designed it. So this is the interface you use when you are feeding your database. When you go to most organizations like a bank, okay, the person sitting facing you, the teller or whoever he is, he will see the whole database from this end. So he will see this. But the database is made of database is actually made of tables. So this is just a means for user to interface with the tables. Users are not supposed to deal directly with the tables. The tables are designed by database experts, and if it needs modification, they are the people who go and do the modification. Users don't have that technical knowledge, they can mess things up. So this is the user end. This is what the user will see the database to be. So you type first name, blah 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 blah. You type, you feed all of them, and then you enter as many as you can enter in the contact. Okay. And then you can view a report like this, all faculty. Let me open one report for you to see how. So the report is like a Word version, so formatted in some nice fashion so that it doesn't become like a table. Okay, so report. So there's a report that generates all faculty. So you see the name, and you see the name, or it's not first name, surname. So there's a formula that you can use to combine the first and second names, and then it shows all of them as at once. So you see how flexible it is. That is why when you are designing, you design it with all the principle, because you can just do anything you want. Faculty ID, blah 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 blah. You can. This one also, emergency contact information. It's a report, separate report generated. Faculty address book, separate report generated. So when you come and click this, you just get the report you print. And anytime you add a person, all of these informations are sorted into these reports automatically. Okay, so that's the beauty of it. So this is an example of an online template. Okay. But for most for most part of what we are going to do, we will be doing things from scratch, because we are learning, we are students. And of course, we have to understand the things from the scratch. Before I forget, you can even see, I think these are the local templates. Without searching anything here, you can see some templates. You can see faculty here. You can see nutrition tracking. You can see charitable contribution. Maybe you want to do NGO. Someone just said NGO something. So this could be a template you can modify, or you can even adopt. This is call tracker, customer service, home inventory. You can be clicking on these things and be digesting them. Just dismantle them and see how they made them, the tables that are involved, blah 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 blah. Okay, so this is the welcome screen and any idea about templates. But most part of what we're going to do will be here. Blank database, blank desktop database. So you click here, and then Access asks you, by default, Access gives the databases you'll be creating some serial names. Database 1, database 2, database 3. It means on this machine I've created about 4 of them. So now it is database 4. You don't want to name it database 4. You give it a customized name so you can know what that database is meant to do. What name do you want us to give to our database? Yes, what name?
Yes, database.
School database. Thank you, that's okay. Is Veronica on board? My assistant course rep. Veronica. Fresho.
Sir.
Where is your wife?
Sir.
Sir.
Vero.
Sir,
Are you there?
yes, please.
Now that I'm afraid I won't fall phone. And often will doom since and I watching your number.
No, sir.
I was calling to give you information to give to the class about today's lecture. I called you almost the whole of, it's not only yesterday, I've been calling you, I don't get you. Okay, so Veronica, what name do you want us to give to the database? Someone suggested school database, but it's too generic. What if we get a contract to do database for, let's say, 3 schools? We can't name all of them school database because we wouldn't know from that naming which database is for which school. So it has to be a little bit more specific than just school database. So Vero, what's the name? Should we call it Veronica?
No, sir.
So what's the name? Suggest a name. A more customized name.
Sir, we should use the specific school's name.
So give us an example. It needs not to be real. It can be a fictitious name. Give us one.
Okay.
So we can call it ACC 204 school. All right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So ACC. Oh, let me make them caps. ACC 204. So we can just make it like that. ACC 204. Let's say school. Let me add the school for it to be more specific. And then here, the default directory, the default location where it will go and sit, the database will go and sit, is on your C drive. In fact, it's in your documents. If you're using Windows, it's in your documents. If you have a problem with it going to your document and you want to let it go elsewhere, you click on this to direct the location to a different place. So let's say I want it to come to desktop, for example. Then I'll click on desktop here. Then I'll click on save. Okay. And then I come and click on this button create to create it. Okay. And then for you to know that the name went right, when you look at the title bar, you see ACC 204 school database. So when you create a database for the first time, access, please mute your mics, I beg. If you create an Access database for the first time, this is what you see. Access creates the database with a table because everything about database is tables. Tables are the real deal. So it comes with a table, one table, waiting for you to add all your tables. The table it first comes with, it doesn't know what you are doing, so it gives it a default name, table 1, table 2, table 3. So you have to customize the names based on what you are doing. Please, if you are not talking, if you don't have any question to ask me or comments to make, mute your mic, I beg. Okay, so that's what you are seeing. And then the table will come in what we call data sheet view. So let me take the opportunity to explain to you the views of a table. Now we know table. Tables are the containers that will hold the data. So they are the building blocks of the database. You can't joke with them. The default view is the data sheet view. When you come here, you will see this is the current view. So we have 2 main views for the table. So you see the view symbols: design view, data sheet view. Design view. Are you seeing what I'm showing you? Hello, class?
Yes.
Good,
Yes,
good,
sir.
good that you are following. So this is the default, the view we are in now, data sheet view. The data sheet view is like Excel view. It's just that this is also in grid. It's just that you cannot see it well. And the design view is like your workshop. It's like the mechanics shop where you can get the hammer, you can get the pinch bar, you can get all the tools. You can get all the tools that you need for designing your table. So let's go to the design view, because here is the view that after doing all the designing, we naturally want to see data. But if we are starting to create the table, we always go to the design view because that's where we have the tool to do the designing. So let's switch to design view. Before Access will make you switch to design view, it will ask you, because it knows that the default name is not a name that you intend to use. So it will ask you this information. It will give you this dialog box that name the table the way you intend to name it. So the tables are our entities, you know that. So the first one we said was student. So student, so that's the student table. Then I say okay. So it now turns into the design view. Now we are ready to design. We have been here before. This is where you can specify all the attributes. What is an attribute? Because I'll ask you these questions. What is an attribute? Is anybody called Sewa? If you are called Sewa, mention your name and let me give the question to you too. Don't keep quiet just because you have to answer a question. Who is called Sewa? Nobody. Okay, who is I have your list here. Let me go to the list and I mention your names. You can't dodge. Roberta. Morning. Oh, okay. Okay, no problem. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay, so now I have access to your list here. Aaron. Is Aaron on board? Aaron Adama. Aaron? Aaron?
No, sir.
Aaron is not on board.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Abigail. Abigail Atta. Abigail?
Sir, no Abigail.
Hey. Albert Echampon. Yeah, Abigail is there. Abigail.
Hello.
Yeah, Abby. Abigail. Abigail Atta. Yeah, Abigail. Yes, Abigail. What is an entity? Any other person who is not talking should mute his or her mic except Abigail. Abigail, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. We are trying to design our first table. Oh, those people who do not have the platform, please mute your mic, I beg. Mute your mic. Let's give the opportunity to Abigail. Abi, we are trying to design our first table, student table. I hope you've been following what we are doing. Abigail.
The entity is anything which contains code used for storing data.
And anything
Sir,
which contains rows. Okay,
entity is anything which contains fields, like fields.
Okay.
Used for storing data.
Okay, thank you for the attempt. Does anybody has something to add to what Abigail said on entity? Sorry, did I say entity? On attribute? Yeah, on attribute.
The attributes are the characteristics of the entities.
I told you the rules. If you want to talk, mention your name, because two people could be talking at the same time, or even more people. If you mention your names, I have the option to say, okay, this person, you talk. Then the other person waits for you to talk. So, the gentleman who just talked, what is your name?
My name is Theophilus.
Theo, say what you said again.
The attributes are the characteristics of the entities.
Okay, the attributes are the characteristics of the entity which we find it necessary to be keeping data on. Everything has attributes. Like yourself, you have attributes. You have height. Who is that? Like ourselves as humans, we have height. That is is an attribute of me. We have color or complexion, however you want to say it. It's an attribute. We have a lot of attributes. We have families we belong to, blah blah. They all are things about us that for database purposes we may want to keep. So every entity also has attributes. For example, if you take the student entity, it has attributes. Students have attributes. And we have to define the attributes in the context of what we are trying to keep about the student, the purpose of the database. So what are some of the characteristics or the attributes? And when we are doing these things, you have to remember, you have to send your mind back to all the things we have been doing, normalization, and even the data types. You remember normalization? So how you have to set up your table, they are hugely underpinned by the concept of normalization. Please, you have to always remember that. So the attributes, I'll call for them later. So we have this ID, and the ID, you will see a key before the ID. You remember we talked about the concept of primary key, right? Who wants to talk about what a primary key is? I have one mark available to dash. Your records are before me here. I just added to your score. Who wants to talk about what a primary key is? One mark is available. Mention your name. Theophilus.
Yes. A primary key is what uniquely identifies a table.
Okay.
Or each record. Uniquely identifies each record.
That's good. So a primary key, you see that it is the column, no? So it's a primary key column. You see this field, this is a field. We are creating the field, and each field is a column. When we finish creating all the field names, and we move from design view into a datasheet view, you will see that all the names will be populating here will now become the columns. And by now you should know that field, column, attributes are synonymous words when it comes to database table design. By now you should get it. If you don't get it, it means you're not reading, or you're not reading enough. Okay, so a primary key field or a primary key column is a column that will show a difference in all the records we have put in the database. Example, when I was explaining the normalization thing for you, let me refer to the notes. I know some of you are not reading, so I want you to know the importance of what I sent to you. Okay, so let's go to normalization and the concept of primary key. So first normal form is a first normal form principle. The concept of a primary key as a unique identifier of records. You have these notes, you've had it over months. Okay, so let me just use this table. In this particular table, this is the primary key field. When we turn from design view to datasheet view, you will see it like this. So the primary key, we named it student ID or student. The bracket PK means primary key. When you look at the other fields, which are not the primary key, like student name and other things, you will see that student name here we have Joshua Ado or Josh Ado. And then the third one is another person also called Josh Ado. If we do not create another column which will differentiate between these two people, then it's like the database will be confused when you call for Joshua Ado, because this is Joshua Ado, this is Joshua Ado, they are spelled the same way. So which of the Joshua Ados are you talking about? So this primary key, you know, their student names are the same, but their primary keys are different. So they are differentiated by their primary key, and that's the job of a primary key. So when we say Joshua Ado, when you just say Joshua Ado, the database can ask you which of them. You say Joshua Ado with primary key ID or primary key 3. And in most cases, we even do the searching principally with the primary keys. So primary key 3, so you know specific Joshua Ado you are calling for. I hope you're okay with that explanation. Okay, so that's the job of a primary key. Because it is very important, and in a relational database design, you cannot proceed with your table design without specifying at least one column as a primary key column. So that's why it comes automatically. And then access things that you may want to call your primary key field ID. So it automatically gives that name. But it is subject to modification. So in our case, we are going to call this student ID. We want to make it a little bit descriptive. So student ID, and in fact we've been doing some of these things. So I'll call it student. And then it is assigned a primary key field. What will make you see is the key symbol that you can see before this field. Now you have to assign the data type. Here, the primary key field, that is what the database uses for all the relationship works. So the users ourselves may not be needing it so much, except that it makes the database hold together, and the database engine is the one who actually needs it. So in most cases, we allow the database itself to generate the codes, the numbers for such an ID. But of course, if you want to supply the database with customized primary key values, which maybe you will want to use for your purpose, then you can change it from auto number to something else, which you will supply yourself. But that sometimes generates some issues. So it is always smarter for the purposes of primary key in this case to allow it to be generated by the system. So you see that it is automatically auto number. But like I said earlier, if you intend to do your own customized things, you can always do that and change the data type. So we are okay with this. You have the option of supplying a description. Maybe you can type some it's like a comment, a wordy thing to explain what this is doing. For this particular thing, it is not too necessary. So let's go to the next field. So apart from the primary key, we just through Theophilus got to know what an attribute is. Attribute is a characteristic of the student that we want to store. And you also know from our normalization principles that a relational database goes by one table keeping a single purpose data. So we don't put so many data that are not for a single purpose together. So if it is for students, we want to keep student specific data here. We don't add fees here. We don't add their residence here. We don't, because they are also different subjects we can keep separate tables for. So that's the whole idea. Go back and read your normalization text. So with that in mind, we can understand what we have to put here as the attributes, knowing that we have to make this table a single purpose table storing student specific data. So give me the first attribute. Let me give it to Agnes Ankra. Agnes. Is Agnes on board? Agnes? Agnes Ankra? Agnes is absent. I'm marking register. And I attach a lot of importance to class participation. So if you're absent, you better advise yourself. Albert Sifa. Sifa Albert. Is Sifa Albert in class? Okay, absent. Albertina. Hello? Albertina, are you in class? Absent. Alfred Osei? Alfred. Alfred is not in class. Okay. Let me give it to the whole floor. Who wants to talk about it? Which other attributes, apart from the primary key field, which other attributes do we have to keep? You have to remember we are keeping data specifically relating to student. Which other attributes?
Sir Elizabeth.
Yeah, Lizzie.
Sir, the first name.
Okay, so first name. So let's make it short. So let's call it F name like this. And we've talked about some of the naming conventions. You can use camel casing, like I'm doing. So some people will even type it full like this first, but they'll put them together. If you finish talking, mute your mic, I beg. They'll put it together like this. First name. You see, databases don't like spaces. It makes programming so clumsy. So we try to write everything as one word. But this is two words that you are forcing to write as one word. So this is how you can do it. Camel casing, initial word capitalization. Or some will use not this one. Maybe they can do this, write in a sentence case, but they will separate this with this. There's still one. Or others might use underscore rather. So these are the various ways that you can do it. So first name. What is the appropriate data type to assign?
Joseph.
Joseph, yeah.
Short text.
Short text, good. And we should all understand why it is short text. When I assign the short text, see, we have that field properties loaded down here. and you can see it. And then you can see the size of the field. I told you about it. This is the default size that Microsoft Access allocates to that data type, 255 characters. But I mean, it's reasonable to think of it that the first names you'll be recording will not get to 255. So you can reduce it and say 50, so that you don't get those spaces unnecessarily allocated and to slow your database down. So I'm reducing it to 50. You have a format here. Basically, this is where you can, well, when you click on the drop down, you will see, okay, you don't have anything here. Here, what you can do here is you can make the letters you type, or I mean the characters you type there, be automatically all caps or all lowercase. So when I do greater than, like this code means that I want to force all the text under this column, whether they are typed small or caps or a mix of them. I want to force all of them to be seen as caps. So when you go to, you have been dealing with some databases online, even your student registration and other things. When you are registering, you will type your name in a sentence case, and then it returns all of them in caps. It means that is how they have formatted it to be. So let's leave it here, caps like this, so that we can see how it works. Input mask. Input mask, I'll explain later, is not suitable for this. Input mask is, you see the way phone numbers are typed. Some of them have some fashionable or some customized way that they will appear. Input mask, you can just add input mask. Let me show you something about them. Okay, so something like a phone number. If you want it to appear like this, no matter how you type it, you can type all of them together. It will just separate them as this. That is the job of an input mask. And you understand what a mask is. Mask is like, this is not your real face. So this is not really how it is typed, but we want it to appear like this. That's the idea behind mask. Social security numbers are normally written like this in the United States, zip code. So however it is done, you can kind of put the input mask there. Okay. Caption. Caption is if you want it to be, this is field name. Sometimes, I mean, what do we call it? Field name as one word. That's what I did. Let me go to design. Let me go to the top and see it. Yes, field name as one word. That is the code that the computer will be using. But if you want the users to see it not coded like this, then you can write what you want the users to see under caption here. Maybe under caption, you want to separate them. Maybe you had written F name, but here you want it to show fully as it is written in everyday language. You can put it here as caption. But those ones make your database a little bit clumsy. I don't really like it, but you may like it, so you can do that. You can experiment with that. Default value. It may not be good for this one. Default value is if you go to some databases, in some field you see that some text is already there that you can override to put yours there. For example, if you set up the fee table, sometimes all students in a level, they pay approximately the same fee. So we can set the default value at that fee that everybody is to pay. In fact, at least that saves us a little time of not typing it again if it is that same default value. But in this case, it will not serve that purpose. Validation rule, if there's anything like where we get to and then we have some of these things workable, I'll just explain them again. So that's it. And then we have here required. You can, if you required, we have yes or no. If you set it to yes, it means that when you are adding data to the table, until you put a value under in the first name column, until you put a value there, you cannot proceed because it is required. And you've been filling online forms where if you skip a field, you want to submit, it comes back to you, this field is required. Normally they do red asterisks on those fields, and then they explain below, this is a required field. All right, so that's the meaning here. So if you set this to required, if you set it to yes, it means we have to type something for everybody's first name. And of course, it makes sense. I don't think there's anybody without first name. So let's set it to required. Allow zero length. Allow zero length is where there's nothing typed there. So let's leave the rest as it is. The important ones are the size of the field. Format is not too important, but if you want it to maybe appear in a certain way, all caps, whatever. Required may be very important. So these are the two key things. So we are done with the first name. So we do surname. Also short text. And then we can do 50 as we did for the other one. What other attributes? We can have index number. That is very specific to every student. Very important for every student. Student index number. And I want to continue with the camel casing. Index number.
I have a question.
Yeah, ask the question, please.
My name is Kwame. Please, can't the student ID be the index number?
Can the student ID be the? Of course. Thank you for that question. In database design, we have what we call candidate keys. There are some attributes that can naturally serve as primary keys, because every student's index number is different. So we will not have the issue of 2 or 3 people having the same index number. In that case, we could have put the index number here and assign it the primary key. That is very possible. Very, very possible. But this, I created it this way because I want the database to assign this. I will never use this. I may want to use this, so I don't want to go into any complications of tampering with the primary key that the database engine wants. So that's why I have designed it this way. But the question that he asked, the answer is that this could be used as a primary key, because we know what primary key is and the job is supposed to do. This one can do that job. So you can actually put this here and assign it the primary key. Yeah. So index number.
Is a follow-up.
Yes, sir.
So if I'm to understand correctly, you can create your own primary key, but it's best to let the system designate one for you.
Yes. Yes. That's good.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah. So index number. What's the data type? What's the appropriate data type? I want a female to talk. Angela. Angela Hupatsi. Forgive me if I didn't pronounce the surname well. Angela. Is Angela in class? Hey. Okay, to all of us. What is the appropriate data type? Hello?
Sir Joseph.
Yeah, Joe.
Short text.
Short text, good. And we should all understand why it is short text. If you don't understand, you can ask a question. And then index number. If it is a specific, in fact, if I need to be specific to a school, UCC, you always have, let's say business school, SB. I'm trying to count the characters in the SB, ACC. Yours is 17 or 18. Let's say 17. 18.
Yes.
Yeah, 18.
Okay, so SBACC 18 followed by four numbers as your as the numbers that will differentiate you. Please mute your mic. Okay, so if I count the characters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I think there are about 14. I wouldn't I mean, there will be no instance where any student's ID number or index number will go beyond this 14. So you can even set it to 14 because it's cast in stone. It's always 14. So let me give it 15. Yes. The idea is not to leave the unnecessary spaces to make your database slower. Yeah. Formats, here it becomes very necessary. We mostly prefer it to be written in caps. So here it becomes necessary to set it to caps, whether the person writes it in small or a combination of the two. And it has to be required. We cannot have a student without registration number. Then that student is not a student. So it's required. These are the two main things, the important things here. Then we come to which other attributes?
So please ask a question, Joseph.
Yeah, Joe, ask.
So please, if you let the database or the access create an ID or a key, a primary key for you, how are you going to pull out specific people using that particular ID, since you might not know the ID for each student?
Thank you very much for your question. When we will get there, I will explain. You can have, for example, when we start doing table relationships, okay, this is where we will need this ID mostly. Apart from the relationship, the ID fields are less, important. The key thing is they help us to link the tables together. The question you asked is a very valid question because this will just generate numbers 1, 2, 3, and it's very hard to keep numbers in your head. So that, for example, if I want to link two tables, I need to know the ID number, whether the ID number is 10 or 3 or 1,000, before I can set it against another table for the two records to be linked. That will be very difficult, but there's a flexible way out. The computer will be using those numbers anyway. We can decide to use this one only for viewing purposes. We can use a combination of the first and surname, and even in this case particularly, we will use the index number for our purposes. But when we view the index number for the linkages, the database will use these numbers to do the linkages, not the index number. But we will see the numbers from the index number perspective. I'm sure it will not be 100% explanatory for you now, but we'll get there very soon when we start table relationships. So when we are pulling the linking fields, we can pull this will be the linking field actually, but we can pull this alongside it, and this is what we will use for viewing purposes, whilst the database will use this to do the linking. In case we didn't even have index number, we could have used a combination of first name, surname, so that it gives an idea. Okay, this is the person, but the database is actually going to link them with the student ID. When we get there, I will explain further. Okay, so that is for the index number. Which other attributes? Just think, and you always have to remember we have done normalization. It has to be a single purpose table storing student specific data. So don't mess this table up with other data that we can keep separate from the student, other data that naturally is not part of the student. We can think of it like this. And in fact, in the earlier notes I gave you, I explained it. You can think of it like every table, the attributes you put there is trying to define the entity. So if you take yourself, we want to define a human being, or let's say we want to define a car. We know what makes up a car, and those things that make up a car is the attributes of the car. So we know a car has wheels, a car has bonnet, a car has accelerator, a car has windscreen, and all the things you know. Everybody knows car. But in your process of describing what a car is, just imagine, or maybe someone is doing that description for your hearing, and the person said wheels, checked, correct. Windscreen, brake system, and the person just added wings. W-I-N-G-S, wings. Wings like an angel's wings. Then you say, wait, wings? You don't think so. Wings, cars don't have wings. Unless maybe we have flying cars. Do we have flying cars? We don't. And the person also said again, hair. Hair, like the hair on your head. Do cars have hairs? They don't.
No.
They don't. So you see that in the person's description of a car, some things are right, but he's bringing other things in that belongs to other things. So if you allow him to do so, then he is not perfectly defining a car. Cars don't have hairs. Cars don't have wings. That's the idea. So if you bring something here that is not describing the student, for example, you can type, someone may be tempted to type department here. Yes, we normally think like that because of the traditional ways we've been keeping data. Oh, okay, we want to know, we will lump everything together in one table. So that idea can creep in for us to be doing things like that. But the principles we have learned means that bringing a department here is a violation. It's not going to make this table a single purpose table. It's a violation of second normal form principle. And you have read it. I know you have read it. You understand it. So we have had these three attributes. Can you think of other attributes that if we add, we are still describing the student? We are not adding as if we are saying cars have hairs. That's how you have to be thinking about it. So what other thing can you think about?
Date of birth.
Good. That's great. Date of birth. Let me make it short like this. Date of birth. So in this case, then I can come here and say, okay, in case, and this is for other designers' purposes. So you give a description. Okay, what I mean by DOB is date of birth. But it makes ready sense, so there's no need to actually be typing so many things. So date of birth, what is the data type? And you can see the drop down of all the data types. What's the data type?
Date of time.
Good. So date, time. And date time, this is the properties available for you to modify whatever you want to modify. Should it be set to required? If we set it to required, it means if we are feeding our database with information and wait a minute, we don't know this person's date of birth, it means we can proceed. So it may not be too good to set it to required because at a point in feeding your database, you may not know a person's date of birth, but you may want to know it later. So let's leave it at the default no. Unless, mommy, for your purpose, it has to be. If it has to be yes, why not? But let's see the format. When we click here, when you click at the right end, you will see all the formats available. Do you want it to be formatted as this? Thursday, November 12, 2015. It's just the format, and it doesn't mean that date is what is going to come there. Or you want it to be medium dates. So the year, or let's say the day, the month, the year, or you want it to be this traditional format, and so on and so forth. General date, this has the date plus the time. Whatever you want it. I want it to be something informative, straight up. So maybe I'll choose a medium date. So I'll choose that format there. I don't intend to use any input mask. Caption, not really. I don't have any default date, so that's okay for now. So do we have any other attributes that will still make this table a single purpose table?
So gender.
Okay, gender. Okay, that's good. So let's put gender there. And then we can make the gender a lookup. So we'll see it. So gender. So I'm taking the opportunity to explain what the lookup is. The lookup can be done in, let me explain it generally. Lookup is here for this particular column. When I set it to lookup, this is what I want to do. When I am entering data into the table, and I get to gender, I do not always, because gender will have to be only two things. Male, female, male, female, male, female, male, female, male, female, male, female. So always typing male, female, male, female, male, female, male, female. It's quite redundant. So you can maybe set up a table called gender. Then you key those values in there. That's your job. You will not type again. Then for all tables that will need gender, you refer this column to that table you have set up and pick the values from that tables. That is one approach, so that gender will have its own table. And that makes sense because apart from students, the guardian or the parents table will need gender. Some other tables, like the staff, maybe non-teaching, teaching, all of them may have gender attributes. And you may end up doing a lot of typing of gender, male, female, male, female, male, female. So if you have it set up as a table, then we can always refer to that table to supply us with the values. That is a good idea. Apart from that, inside every table, you can also, you may not have to create a table, dedicated table. You can set a list up inside the same table and then refer to the list anytime you are doing that. So I think I prefer to set up a table. So I can come here. And do create a table. Let me turn the table to design view. Call it gender. So we can give it an ID, like I told you. So we don't need this ID for anything except for the linking purposes. So let me call it gender ID. Auto number. Then we have you can repeat the same word gender here. That's the field name. And then you can do okay, it may not be necessary. Let me do the inside one first, then later I will explain this one. Okay, so inside here, I'll come back to where we will create a table, dedicated table. Inside here, we will do lookup. Okay, so you see lookup to be this. And then, like I was explaining, you have two options. I want the lookup field to get the values from another table or query. That is why I was going to set up the table. So we will refer to that table. But it may be too redundant. Or the second one, I will type in the values that I want. So we are setting the values inside the table. So we are not going to refer to any table. So I'm choosing this second option. When I get the opportunity to explain where we may want to use this, I'll do that. This will not be a perfect example. So I go here, and then we are going to use only one column. So I just say male. Come back. So male, female. In fact, it doesn't. The order doesn't have any importance. It doesn't mean male come first before female. or it doesn't mean male are important than female. Yeah, it doesn't communicate anything like that. So I set the values there. These are the values that I always want to see in a drop down. You'll be seeing it in a drop down to choose instead of always typing. So I go to next. So what label would you, yes, I give it gender. Do you want to limit entries to the choices? Of course, gender is always male and female. Forget about what people are trying to talk about, transgender people who are male females, female males. I don't really think they are real. So I'll check this box to limit to the list. It means nobody can add to, from the user end, the user cannot add anything to this male female I've added. That's the meaning of checking this, limit to list. If you uncheck it, it leaves it open, so the user can, from her side, add another list. Maybe you want to add whatever. So let me limit it. Do you want to store multiple values for this lookup? No. So it is at any point in time, you are either a male or female. You cannot be two. So we'll leave it. There are other instances when we get the opportunity, I will explain, where that thing you are storing can be this and that at the same time. In that case, we'll allow multiple values. So we just say finish. So it is set up as lookup. So it will be looking up the values from the list we supplied. But of course, the field size can be 10 or can even be 5. It's male, female. Female, so let me make it 10. Yeah. Format, if you want to force it to capital letters, fine. Input marks, there's nothing like that. Gender, if for our purpose we think it's always important to provide information as to whether you are a male or female, then we can set it to required. Sometimes we want that information to know how many females we have in the class, how many males. So this should be set to required so that every student will have to provide this information. Okay, so let's say these attributes well define the student to make the student table a single purpose table. When we move to datasheet view, of course, this is another window you can use to change the views. In the design tab, this first group, you see views. When you click on the drop down, you see the two views. So you can click on this to change to datasheet view. And like I told you, those things we were seeing in the design view, these ones are the column names. So you are now in the design room, you are providing your column names. When you come here, this is how you see them. Student, first name, surname, index number, date of birth, gender. And because we set this to auto number, it's ready, automatically ready. So you don't type anything here. You just go here. So let's say in our table, my first name is Josh. So you see, I typed Josh as sentence case. Only the J was capital. But because we have set the formatting to uppercase, it has converted everything to uppercase. Let me intentionally type even this one as all lower cases. So Ado. Oh, it means that in the surname we didn't apply the format, if you remember. So let's go back to the, of course, look at the feedback. You must enter a value in the student index number field because we set that field to required. So once something has been typed for this particular student, we have to fill all the required fields. So let me say this is SB, and of course this one, the index number, I think I applied the format to automatically convert it to uppercase. So I'm typing all of them in lowercase. Let's see, it will convert all of them to uppercase. SB, ACM, 12 0005. This was my index number when I was reading my masters. So when I move to here, you see it has converted all of them to uppercase because I set the formatting so. We didn't do it for the surname. So after this, I'll go back and change this one to uppercase. Date of birth was set to required. Because we assigned the correct data type, you see we have date picker here. So I can click here and even pick the dates right here. But if you had not applied the right data type, let's say you had just chosen text, this date picker wouldn't come. So that's one of the importance of doing things right. So let me go, I'm going forward. Let me go backward, or let me just use any date of birth. Let me try to be a little bit realistic. Let me choose this one. I don't have the time. So I choose this, and when I move from here, it will apply the format. This is the default, style for the date. But when I move here, it will apply the format I chose in this medium form. And we also said this should be, we made it lookup. Alright, so you see the drop down here. We do not always have to be typing. It makes the database prone to typing mistakes. It shouldn't surprise you that for want of speed, you might type mail as M-A-E-L. It happens to me when I'm typing with speed. But if we have already coded these things and the user has to just select, it reduces or it even takes away any idea of typing mistake. Okay, so let me save. I just want to go and apply the uppercase format to this. That's why I've left it blank. So we go back to design view. And then in the surname, you will just see that we didn't apply the format. When I do this, and then I can save, and then we go back and I can add the ADO. I'm typing everything in lowercase. When I leave there, you see that it will turn to uppercase. That's the idea. So I have populated my student table with the first record, and you should know what a record is. Record is complete information for one case, one student. So we have complete information for first name, surname, index name, so they make up a record. And this, the various headings under which we are taking the data for the record is the fields or the columns. You have to understand these things. Any questions on how we have created our student table and the application of the normalization principles? Any questions? Let me know. Please. Any questions?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So, please, I'm Joshua. Please, I have a question.
Yeah, Josh, I'm listening.
So, please, with the gender.
Yes, sir.
You said if we don't limit it to the list, we can add any name to it, like anything we want to add to it.
Of course.
Then, so with this one, can you just write it inside straight away, or you are required to go back to the lookup page and add it there?
Yes, because I set a limitation to it, which means we cannot add. So when I click here, see, when I click here, if I had not checked the limit to the list, you can see you will have a space here. Okay, you still can do it even here. You have a space here to add. So for example, if I do other, I think it's even not as strict as it's supposed to be doing. And you can even set a default value if you think most of the people are male or female. For you to maybe speed up a little bit, you can set a default value as female if you have the sense that most of them will be females. So that if they are female, you don't type anything there, that value is already there. So let's set it that and go. Okay. So this is female. Let me just try to add another person. Your name is Josh, right? Josh what?
Josh Apia.
Okay, Apia. Okay. Apia, tell me your registration number. SBACC 18 0156. Please don't go and be tracking. Okay, nowadays you guys are fortunate. In my days, I was here in 2005. So you can see the gap between me and you. So you have to pay me respect. In 2005, all our results were pasted on notice boards. So if someone knows your index number, the person can go and see your position in class, which for most people it was something unpleasant. Me, I didn't care. Okay, see, that is for Josh. Josh has privacy with his grades or resource. Everything is in your portal. Josh, I mean, let me just pick any date for Josh. This is for learning purposes. So let's say Josh is born on this date. And Josh, you see, when I added Josh, without even feeding the gender, because I set the default value to female, the female will already be there. And another danger is that if you don't take care, you might also be losing sight of the fact that you may have to change. Imagine if I lose sight of the fact that I have to be changing this and I just left female there for Josh. That is very unpleasant. So that's I mean, any choice you make, you have some pros and cons. Okay, so that is it, Josh. All I was trying to say is that if you click here, I don't know, let me go to the design room and check the date, time, and okay, I didn't even set it to required. And okay, I think I did that through the lookup, so I wouldn't be able to see it. I wanted to check whether I checked the limit to the list. The idea of limit to the list is that I think it was unchecked. Is that if I click here, I shouldn't have any window to edit the list. I shouldn't have any window to edit the list to even add this other. That is if I check limit to the list. If I leave it open, it means the user, you see, this is the user end. When we do a form that is linked to this table, it means the user will see this same thing that I'm seeing. So you can click on this and edit the list. If you don't want anything like this, that's where you do the limit to the list, so you don't even see this for the user to be able to add to the list. Okay, so we are done with our table design, students. I hope there are no questions. If you have a question, quickly let me know. So we can now we can close this, we don't need it anymore, and come to create. Anytime you want to create a database object, and of course for access we have a table as a database object, a form as a database object, a query as a database object. You can see query here, you can see form here, and then report as another database object. So we basically have table, form, query, so about 4 main database. We also can have, this is for programming, coding. You can have macros, you can have VB codes, Visual Basic codes, and other things. But this is outside the scope of the class. You can go and learn programming and then apply these things to your database, your Access database design. Your class is not meant for you to read, to learn how to code any of these things. Okay, so we create another table. So if you want to create any database object, you come to the Create tab. And then you can see all the objects that you can create. In the meantime, we want to create table. So I click on this. And it's always created in datasheet view. I can click here and turn it into design view. But before you turn, it will ask you for the name. So let's go back to our drawing board. We said, apart from student, department. Okay, so let's do department. Okay, so access is here. So you can call this department. Yeah, so department table. Yeah, so we can do department ID. Let me make the department simple as this. So depted is good, it's descriptive enough, and it's still coded. Auto number will do. So about the department, what are the attributes that we will have to supply to this table design that will still make this department table, a single purpose table storing department specific data. It's a question to all of us. When I call people, they don't respond, so I've stopped calling names. So anybody can respond, but let me know your name first. Is Anita in class? Anita Ango, are you in class? Anita Ango. Is Anita in class? Anita. Anita Sean, are you in class? Anita Tando, are you in class? All the Anitas are absent. Okay, to all of us, which attributes will describe the department? I'm waiting for your response, please.
Please say the department's name.
Your name, please.
Elizabeth.
Okay, Lizzie. I'm tracking all the people participating meaningfully, and I know what I'll do for them. So we have department name. You could have just typed name, but because we may be pulling fields from this table, adding it to fields from another table, in database design, we try to be more descriptive so that we know that if we do it, department name, we get the understanding that, okay, this table, this name is not a name from the student table, but it's a department name. So we can do something like that. It's always good to do that. Department. You can shorten it like this. Department name. What is the data type? Text, right? And it has to be short text. I don't think a department name can be very long, past 50 characters. So let me set it to 50. And like we have done, we can set this one to uppercase to maintain consistency. And department name has to be required. We have to know which department you come from. Okay, the rest we can ignore them. Which other, apart from the department name, which other attributes? That will describe a department. Which things describe a department? Yes.
Reina, so can you add email to the department?
Can we add what?
Email.
Okay. The scenario I gave you, you always have to assess. Please, you can mute your mic. Someone has his mic disturbing us. Hello, you can mute your microphone.
Okay.
Okay. When you are assessing whether when I add this attribute, whether it is fine, it is appropriate, when you are assessing that, do it through the scenario, do it through that window. I told you of if you yourself have given a task to someone to describe a human being. The description of a human being is according to the characteristics of a human being. Human beings have eyes, we have legs, we have teeth, we have mouth, we have stomach. So if a person says any of these things, yes, they describe a human being. But just imagine that after saying some of these things, the person just added, I don't even know what to say. The person added, what? Wings, for example. Human beings naturally don't have wings. Good. Or the person added screen. Human beings, unless maybe you want to say the screen is your eye, we don't have screens. Okay, so the person is misdescribing, is adding other things that is not describing. So I told you from the earlier note I gave you that what this exercise is more of common sense. Your own thinking is much needed in this exercise. It's not hard and fast from any book that it has to be this or that. And I also told you that these are the principles. What I'm teaching you are the principles, but we can compromise the principles a little bit. If you look at the online database that I showed you, you saw that they had compromised the principles a little bit to achieve user friendliness. That is also done. So what I'm teaching you here, when you come into contact with some databases, you'll see that but Josh said this, but this how all those violations are intentionally made to achieve more user friendliness. They think that is better than being too technical. Yeah. So if you want to go by that, then you can say email, but in that case you should have also added email to the students, because students also have emails. But principle wise, that is not a descriptive of the student. It's not a description of the student. It's not descriptive of students. If you put email here, it's not too descriptive of department. Department name, I think, yeah, someone wants to talk.
Can you add location?
Of course, you can add location. You can add location. You can add location that you can find it. Yes, you are still describing the department on campus. I think it is also right to even describe the department also from the perspective of which college the department or which school the department comes from and which college. It's not, when you do that, it's not redundant. It's not redundant. Okay, so that makes it more like single purpose. Because on campus, when we say department, first thing, like you have said, department name, then which school, which college. We can have a department, the same name, about 3 of them, but they belong to different schools and colleges. So if you want to be straight to the point, Department of Accounting, School of Business, College of Humanities, and Legal Studies. All of those things describe the department. Okay. So that is how it can be. I am not, by my explanation, trying to say if you put an email there, it is wrong. Principles wise is a violation, but we do also violate principles for achieving user friendliness. So you can, it depends on what actually you want to do. I am in the classroom. I have to teach you the principles, so I have to be principles centric. But you also have to be reading wide to understand where we normally break the norm a little bit. So let's say the school. School. Do you have a question?
Please, can I add number of staff?
Number of staff. Okay, you let me finish. We'll think about it.
Please, I was asking that can we add like number of staff?
I'll come back to you. So school or faculty. Let's make it faculty, because faculty will also do for school. So faculty. That should be short text, faculty name. Okay, and here we can do a lookup. Either we will go and do a table like I was trying to do for the first one. A table which stores all of our faculties. The names of all of our faculties. And then even other aspects of the faculty, so that wherever we need to look for faculty, we link it to that table. So we can do that. Let me rename this table. Rename it into faculty. And then open it in design view and just say faculty, or let me just make it like this so it sounds well. Faculty ID. And then we can say faculty name. Apart from faculty name, you can say what again can you say? That's the most important thing. As for the location, how are you going to describe it? Are you going to describe it with a map or what? So faculty name, that may be the only thing we may want to keep here. And then you do it short text is okay. So when I click here, I will get faculty name cannot be longer than 50 characters. Let's maintain uniformity of caps. Faculty name should be required once you are feeding this table. Okay, so I am done with this table. I just want to set this up so I populate, and this is the benefit of it. When I'm entering the values in this table, I'll take my time and type all of the faculties in the university and proofread it to make sure the typings are all correctly done. Then I've finished my job. I've typed once. Anytime I need these values, I refer them to this table. So I can save, and let me come here and feed this table so that the data will be there. Then I refer this information to other tables. So what are the faculties? So let's say School of Business, right? It doesn't matter whether I've named it faculty, but I'm saying school. They are the same. School of Business. So here I'm taking my time. The initial capitalization, school is initial cap, business is initial cap. If you leave it and anytime you are feeding, you have to be typing with speed, sometimes it becomes, inconsistent. So that is one. Number two is give me the schools, so you have them, the schools and faculties. School of Medical Sciences.
Faculty of Social Science.
Okay, I'm coming. School of Medical Sciences.
Faculty of Law.
Faculty of Arts. Faculty of Social Science.
I'm coming, please. School of Medical Sciences. Is it science or sciences? I think it's sciences. They do a lot of things there. Faculty of Social. Did you say Faculty of Social Science?
Faculty of Arts.
Faculty of Arts. Okay. ADM.
Faculty of Law.
Faculty of
Faculty
Law.
of Law.
Okay, good. Faculty of Law. What again?
School of Economics.
School of Economics. Good. School of Economics. Okay, so we can always come and add for demonstration purposes. Let's say these are the schools and faculties. So once I have stored the values once and for all in this table called faculty, and I've checked everything is correct, now here inside my department. For every department, we know it belongs to a faculty. So we do not, when we are typing, when we get to this column, we do not have to be typing. Anytime we get there, typing, we can mistype. And it's also redundant, every day typing the same things. We have typed them once. That's the beauty of, one of the beauties of relational database. So we can refer. So when I get here, I'll just do lookup. Look up the values for this field from another table. So we see I want the lookup field to get the values from another table or query. That's correct. And then I say, okay, then it will give me all the list of tables and queries. So the faculty. And I go to here. Then it will give me the fields in that table. And I want this. And immediately I do, okay, so let's go. So this is faculty. And I go to here. It asks you whether you want to sort that list in any order. Maybe ascending is okay. Maybe ascending is okay as it is. Ascending based on faculty name is okay. Then I go here. So I see all of them here. See all of them here. So this is an answer to one of the questions. See here. See this check box here. Hide key column. When I uncheck this, you will see the key column here. Now, what is happening is that by referring these values from an existing table, I am automatically creating a relationship between the two tables. That's one major thing Lookup also does. When I refer faculty names from the faculty table to the department table, I am creating a link, a relationship between the faculty table and the department table, and they share that relationship. Faculties house departments. Departments are housed by faculty. That's the relationship. We'll talk about relationship very soon. The relationship thing is built by the key, by the primary key field. So you see that these are the keys 1, 5, 1, 4, 3. And this is what the database is going to use anytime you choose. It's going to link them by these primary key values. But that is a database's language. That's what the database needs. You don't need it. That is why by default it shows this, because you need this. You as a user, as a human being, you need this human readable text. You don't need a text. So by default it hides the keys unless you want to see it. Okay, so that's it. Then we go next. What label would you like to for your lookup? Is faculty? That's okay. Enable data integrity. Data integrity is very important. And let me take the opportunity to talk a few things about data integrity. And that's one of the key advantages of relational database over the traditional database. Here, we have, let me talk about the two options here. Cascade delete, restrict delete. We want to ask ourselves a question. These two tables are linked together. Okay, when it becomes necessary that I delete a record. So when you take any department, like say Department of Accounting, in the department table, it will be linked to a record in the faculty table. And that record will be School of Business. So when I delete Department of Accounting from the department table, does it mean that it should automatically also delete the associated record in the faculty table, which is School of Business? For this particular purposes, the answer is no, because it is not only accounting department that is related to business school. For some purposes, if you delete an entry here, it has to go with the entry in the corresponding table, because we don't need it. If you leave it like that, it will be redundant. For example, let's say we kept, and of course that's what we are going to do. We kept the student data from contact data, and the two tables are linked. When a student is fired from the university, or the student has finished, and after some time we don't need their records anymore, when we are deleting a particular student from the student table, the related records of that student in the contact table should also be deleted, because when we delete your name from the student table, we don't need your phone numbers and your emails for anything again. So in that case, you choose cascade delete. In the first scenario, you choose restrict delete, because when we delete from this side, we don't intend to delete from the other side. When I delete Department of Accounting from the department name, from the department table, it doesn't mean the associated record, which is School of Business, in the faculty table should also be deleted. So you can read further on these things. Then we can say finish. The table must be saved before relationship can be created, and you have to understand that Lookup automatically creates a relationship between the two tables. So I say yes, and the relationship is created. I'll show you where you will see the relationship between them. So now we'll come back to the design view again, but let's assume that I am done with the description of my department. When I come back, I'll come back, at least we have to also specify the college. When I come back here and I type Department of Accounting, Department of Accounting, then the faculty, you see a lookup. So let me just widen this one. Sorry. So under the faculty, you see Faculty of School of, there's no School of Business, because School of Business is here. Okay, so School of Business. Yes. So now the database knows that School of Business is linked with Department of Accounting, and it is using this one. This is the ID for department. It's using this one together with the ID for School of Business in the faculty table. So let me open the faculty table. In the faculty table, School of Business is also 1. So it will do 1 1 as the link. You are not interested in the numbers. That is why you saw only the School of Business. And when there is a relationship between two tables, you will see this plus signs. These check boxes with plus signs in them. That shows this table is in relationship. It is dating another table. Or maybe it is in marriage with another table. That's more appropriate. Yeah. Okay. Any questions so far?
Sir, please come again with the...
With what, please? Yes, Lizzie? I should come again with what?
No, sir, Lucia is talking.
Who is talking, please?
Lucia.
Lucia. Spell it for me so I can pronounce it well. Lucia. Okay. Lucia or Lucia. Hey, mupe brofudinya kesi you. Okay, Lucia, let's hear you. Lucia.
So I think she has issues with her connection. She just went offline.
Okay. I think it's the connectivity. Yeah, so we can proceed. So that's how we do lookup, and that's how lookup creates relationships. Let me show you. When you come to the database tools tab, you will see relationship, in the relationships group, you see relationship. Okay, so when I click this, you will see the tables that are in relationship for now. So you will see faculty, which is in relationship with department, and then we will talk about the type of relationship. This is one to many, because one faculty can be linked to many departments, and that's a perfect relationship. We'll talk about types of relationship very soon when we get to relationships. So some of the things, if they are not 100%, it's okay, but you can also be reading after the class or read ahead of time. Yeah, so that's okay. Okay, so let me delete this. So any questions so far on how we have created? Let me just finish on the faculty table thing. So faculty. So faculty, I can add to the list. Oh, let me go to design view. I wanted to it was not this one. It was a department that I wanted to finish the description. Okay, so department ID, department name, faculty that it belongs to. And maybe you want to also know the college. And in a similar fashion, we can create college table. And then, so college ID. College ID, and then we do college name. These are the two things, most important things. Short text, let me give it 50. Format, first capitalize. Can set it to yes or whatever it is, because just one field. So, and then we can come back in design view and add all our colleges here. College of Humanities, there are plenty. College of Humanities and Legal Studies. And then when you are feeding, because this is like a standing list, so you need to check your time and make sure. See here, legal, see how, because I'm typing with speed, see, so you take your time and check the spelling, everything, to be sure that the list is set right, so that any reference to this list will also generate accurate data. So College of Humanities and Legal Studies. What college again? What college do you know? College of what?
College of Health and Allied Sciences.
College of Health
and Allied Sciences.
Okay, College of Health and Allied Sciences. Okay, again, you also check that the spelling, because this is going to be your standing list. Okay, so this is what you do. Let's assume that, okay, we are done with this. We can populate them later, and I'm sure you will have to recreate what we are doing, so you can also follow along to understand perfectly what we are trying to achieve. So if I save and I come back to the department, now for the college field, I can make it a lookup just like I did for the faculty. And when I do a lookup, I'll say I want to look up the values from a table, and I'll choose the college table, and I want the college name. And I come here, I want to sort on college name basis. That's okay. I come here, so I'll see the colleges that I have typed. 2 colleges for now. And again, it is hiding the key field because you don't need a key. The key is needed by the database to do the association. You only want to see this because you will assign based on what is human readable and understandable. That's the college names. So there's no need to show the keys. So you come here, enable data integrity, just like we did for the other one. Finish. And then take your time and read some of these things. It's a dialogue between you and the computer. The table must be saved before relationship can be created. So you say yes, you do that. So relationship is created now. So when I come here and okay, I come to faculty. Okay, faculty is already taken. When I want to take the college, I'll see it as a drop down and all the lists. School, Department of Accounting, School of Business, College of Humanities. I choose this. Then the database engine will link this ID with the ID for College of Humanities and Legal Studies in the colleges table. That's how it will do the pairing. You don't need to worry yourself about the ID pairing. You only have to see what is friendly to you as a human being. Okay, so that is it. What was the time is 11:30. I want us to end the lecture here, but before ending the lecture here, I want to hear your comments in terms of questions or other contributions. If you have a question, you mention your name, I give you the chance to talk. Questions? So it's question and answer, question time. Okay, so ask your questions.
Okay, sir.
Your name first, please.
Elizabeth.
Yeah, Lizzie.
So, you created new tables, for instance, the college and then the faculty. Could I have just gone straight to the lookup wizard and I type the colleges?
You type the list, just like I did for the gender.
Yes.
Gender inside it. Yes, you could have done it so.
Okay. Thank you.
Have done it. Okay. Any other question? Oh, it's only Lizzie who has a question. Class, okay, it means you understand everything. So you will be given assignment very soon on all the things you have learned so far, from normalization up to what we are doing. So go back and be reading the text. Yes, a question? Your name, please. And try to speak out, okay? Your name. Okay, I don't think anybody has a question. I don't hear anything. So try to go back to the text I've given you, the videos I've shared with you. Watch them, read the text. You can also consult other sources to clarify things and just own the knowledge there. In no time, we may do some assignments online. Yeah, so you have to prepare for them. Thank you very much. If you don't have any other question. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
God bless you. Bye-bye.
Hello, class. Have a nice day.